All right, we are here in beautiful Cannes, France. We're about to shoot wide panorama of the harbor beneath here, and it's a little bit after sunset. We are actually waiting for the lights of the city to come up and a little more color, blue color in the sky to show. We're going to shoot a blue hour panorama. I've got the camera here on the tripod, and the camera is set in vertical mode, portrait orientation, to give me more vertical resolution. And then I'm going to turn the camera around from left to right, and I will shoot various slices of the panorama, taking care to overlap each slide with the slice with the previous one by at least the 30%. And I've got the camera in manual focus, manual exposure, so that I don't have changes in focus or exposure across the whole sequence. So I've got here my remote control. I use this to avoid any possible camera shake due to me touching the camera. I'm right about to start shooting, so I will just frame the subject properly at the beginning, just leaving a little bit more space to the left so I can crop more easier later. And I'll take one shot and then move a little bit with my pen head, take another shot, move a little bit, take another one, another one, and another one there. In the end, I decided not to use the photos I had taken in Cannes because the light there was just not good. I'm using a set of photos I took in Norway instead, but my technique for shooting them was exactly the same. These photos are exactly as they came out of camera. No processing has been applied to them. The reason for this is that I want to apply my processing globally while looking at the stitched panorama, not base my decisions on a single slice that might be brighter or darker than the rest. The good thing about the Lightroom Panorama Merge is that it creates a raw DNG file that retains all of the information in the original files. So you're not constrained in any way in what processing steps you can apply after the panorama has been created. So I'm just going to select all of my images, typing Command A on a Mac or Control A on a PC, and then typing Control M to go into the Panorama Merge preview mode. So now the preview has been generated. Looks pretty nice. Here I have various options in this panel. I can choose a different projection, and I can try spherical, which looks like a little bit more squished. Cylindrical, that looks taller, maybe a bit more natural if I don't want it too wide of a panorama. And perspective. With this particular image, PhotoMerge is not able to merge the photos. Just going to choose cylindrical just because I like it better. And depending on the subject, you might want to use a different option. Experiment with them just. Of course, the resulting image is not perfectly rectangular. This is due to the way I was moving the camera. This always happens. And here you have two options to fix those white borders. One is to use auto crop. And if you do that, it will automatically crop the image so that all the white areas are removed. But a new option in Lightroom 6 is this boundary warp. In the most recent versions, it basically warps the image so that the boundaries are filled. And you see, as I move the slider, more of the white borders get filled. Now, with this kind of image that has natural lines, you can go all the way up to 100%. If you have more straight lines, this might create more distortions depending on the perspective and the subject again. So again, you will have to experiment. With this image, I'm happy with using boundary warp, but if you wanted, you could use a mix like 50 boundary warp plus auto crop. The more you warp, the more resolution your resulting image will have. So for this, we will just use these settings here. I'm just going to click on Merge and let Lightroom do its thing. After a few seconds, the panorama is being created. You can just double click on it to expand it. And you can see here from the file name, it's a DNG file. That means it's basically a raw file. That means I can go into the develop mode, even just by clicking D or clicking on develop there. And the information here is telling me that this is a 12,000 by 4,700 pixels. This is almost 60 megapixels. So it's a pretty huge image. I can see there's a lot of detail here if I just click to zoom in 100%. Now this is still unprocessed. This is basically out of camera. So I'm just going to apply some of my favorite settings here. Since this was shot with a Fuji camera, I have the option to choose the Velvia, which is my favorite preset for landscapes. This is a bit too cold. I'm going to warm it up a bit, increase the exposure, decrease the highlights, open up the shadows, bring up the whites a bit, tone down the blacks, just a little bit of clarity and maybe some vibrance. And yeah, this is a good start. I've got stitched panorama, 60 megapixels image in a matter of minutes without having to waste too much time with external software, Photoshop or other tools.